This is TVP World. You're watching World News. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and these are the latest headlines. The Warsaw Security Forum continues in the Polish capital, bringing some of the strongest voices on defense to the stage. Among them was former NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. Our defense correspondent, Zuzana Jurek, was there for a speech. Zuzana, so what arguments are being made at the WSF?
Good afternoon, Ben. So as you mentioned, obviously Warsaw has taken center stage in terms of global diplomacy relating to defense, deterrence and security. This was the case yesterday morning as well, and some of these discussions are expected to potentially have tangible policy outcomes. For example, the German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has said that Germany is willing and ready to potentially strengthen the capabilities of European NATO allies by providing, for example, additional air defenses as well as strengthening supply chains. But as you mentioned, the former Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, took to the stage this morning for an award ceremony. He obviously held the helm of the NATO alliance at a very critical time for the alliance itself, presiding over it from 2014, just after Russia's annexation of Crimea, and overseeing some of the key geopolitical challenges of the 2010s, that is, for example, and 2020s, that is, for example, the withdrawal of America from Afghanistan, the end of the war in the Middle East, and lately, of course, the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia. During his speech, he underlined that it's crucial that the alliance stands united together and it addresses with rapidness and determination some of these key challenges, and that is, for example, Russia's provocations on NATO's eastern flank. He said that now is the time for action, and he also underlined that though the alliance has previously failed to address, or NATO as such has failed to address and act with speed to some of these challenges and some of these provocations which have emerged, it is now the time to act, and as opposed to dwindling on past mistakes, it's crucial to move forward and act decisively now. Obviously, these conversations are expected to unfold for the remainder of today as well, with other keynote speeches expected from defense ministers from across the region, particularly the Baltic states. So we will continue to bring you the latest updates as and when needed, but for now it's back to you in the studio.
Comprehensive update, and please keep us posted. Appreciate it. A Russian drone strike killed a couple and their 2 young children in Ukraine's Sumy region overnight on Monday. Their home was destroyed in the attack.
The attack took place in the village of Chernechchina, near the Russian border. The local governor said the combat drone directly targeted the family's residential building. Rescue workers recovered the bodies of the parents and their sons, aged 6 and 4, from the rubble. Local officials described the deaths as an irreparable loss for the entire community. Border villages in the Sumy region have faced relentless Russian assaults, forcing widespread evacuations. Earlier this year, Moscow attempted to seize ground in the region, but Kyiv says its forces have since repelled the offensive.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen proposed using frozen Russian assets to strengthen Europe's defense industry. She spoke alongside NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte at a joint press conference where they announced a €2 billion budget to sustain Ukraine's drone needs.
If we continue to believe that Ukraine is our first line of defense, we have to step up the military assistance to Ukraine. Therefore, concretely, we have agreed with Ukraine that a total of €2 billion will be spent on drones now. This allows Ukraine to scale up and to use its full capacity, and of course it will also allow the European Union to benefit from this technology. However, we need a more structural solution for military support. And this is why I have put forward the idea of a reparations loan that is based on the immobilized Russian assets. And we will strengthen our own defense industry by ensuring that part of the loan is used for procurement in Europe and with Europe. Importantly, there is no seizing of the assets. Ukraine has to repay the loan if Russia is paying reparations. If Russia is paying reparations, the perpetrator must be held responsible.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte called Ukraine the alliance's first line of defense as he addressed Russian drone incursions into Polish and Estonian airspace. He said building a drone wall remains a priority for NATO's future security.
Because first of all, we have to keep our skies safe. And we have seen over the last couple of weeks what happened with the drones in Poland, the MiG-31s in Estonia, but also what is happening now in Denmark. In Denmark, we are still assessing what is behind it. But when it comes to Poland and Estonia, it's clear that it is the Russians. Still, we are assessing whether it is intentional or not. But even if it is not intentional, it is reckless and it is unacceptable. So we need to protect our skies. So the drone wall initiative is timely and necessary because in the end, we cannot spend millions of euros or dollars on missiles to take out the drones, which are only costing a couple of $1,000s. So we need the drone wall. We are helping the Ukrainians because this is about our values, but also about, indeed, first line of defense, our collective safety. So it is crucial that they sustain in the fight, so we keep supporting them.
Former U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Gillian Smith, has urged the alliance to launch a center focused on countering drones. She told the Polish press agency that the initiative should also involve Ukraine and Indo-Pacific allies.
Smith, who represented Washington at NATO between 2021 and 2024, warned that Russia has long relied on hybrid tactics, including drone incursions and cyber attacks, to test the alliance's unity. She praised NATO's quick response to recent drone incidents over Poland, but noted the cost imbalance in shooting down cheap drones with expensive missiles. According to her, a dedicated NATO center should focus on developing better sensors, detection tools, and affordable countermeasures, while strengthening maritime surveillance and electronic warfare. Smith also underlined the need for continued exercises to clarify when Article 5 might apply in hybrid scenarios. In the short term, she recommended shifting more aircraft to NATO's eastern flank, stressing that U.S. forces remain a crucial deterrent against further Russian aggression.
At the Warsaw Security Forum, a U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine, General Keith Kellogg, addressed speculation about whether Donald Trump will authorize American-made Tomahawk missiles for Kyiv. Now, such long-range systems would allow Ukraine to strike targets deep inside Russia.
From what I understand, and I was not in the meeting, from what I understand, reading the public reports, is that that issue of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine was brought up by President Zelensky to President Trump at the UN General Assembly last week in New York City. There has been no comment either, yes, it's going to happen, or no, it's going to happen. The acknowledgement from, again, in the public reports is they were asked for. That is obviously something that has been picked up by the world press, obviously picked up by the Russians as well, simply because of the capability and the capacity of the weapon system.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said on Monday that Europe is no longer at peace with Russia, warning of escalating tensions. He repeated his call to use frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine's defense. Speaking in Dusseldorf, Merz described Russia's war as an assault on democracy and freedom aimed at weakening EU unity. He argued that unlocking frozen funds could cover Ukraine's military needs for 3 to 5 years. He added that over time, the conflict will become economically unsustainable for Moscow. The Polish-Japanese Investment Forum is underway in Osaka, bringing together leaders from businesses, government, and academia to boost bilateral cooperation. The event highlights new opportunities for trade and investment between the two countries. Our correspondent, Gabriela Fresnek, is on site with more.
There are only 2 weeks left until the end of Osaka Expo 2025, but the program remains jam-packed. Today, the representatives of Polish and Japanese businesses are meeting at the Polish-Japanese Investment Forum, an event intended to strengthen the Polish-Japanese economic cooperation and facilitate connections between businesses hoping to expand their operations. The representatives of Polish and Japanese governments are also in attendance. I had an opportunity to speak to Michał Jaros, Secretary of State at the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology.
Drawing on our past experiences, good cooperation, work ethic and Japanese technological thought, we can not only build the potential of the Polish economy, Poland's strength in the European Union and globally, but also use the potential of our Polish-Japanese cooperation in the future for the reconstruction of Ukraine.
The forum will focus primarily on infrastructure and green technology, but also on Polish-Japanese cooperation in rebuilding Ukraine, an area where Poland and Japan have been working together for quite some time. Several Japanese companies have opened their offices in Warsaw since the start of the war, relying on Poland for their expertise and as a hub connecting Japan to Ukraine. For TVP World, from Osaka, Gabriela Fesnak.
The Polish government has endorsed Parliament Speaker Szymon Hołownia for the post of United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees after his formal application last week. A government spokesperson confirmed the backing on Monday, calling Hołownia's candidacy a strong step for Poland's international standing. Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski pointed to Hołownia's humanitarian work in Africa, which earned recognition from leaders there. Hołownia thanked Poland's president and prime minister for mobilizing diplomatic support on his behalf. The UN refugee chief is elected by the General Assembly for a 5-year term and currently oversees protection for nearly 130 million displaced people worldwide. The current commissioner's mandate ends in 2025, opening the way for a successor. And with that, we conclude this edition of World News. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.